Hello and welcome to another episode of Cooking with Cleavage. First, I want to apologize to you for it being so long since I've actually done an episode of Cooking with Cleavage. I was working and it was really long hours, and I actually did one for Kentucky Derby, but I wasn't satisfied with the results, and so I wanted to make another episode after that to correct the thing I did wrong, but I really haven't had an opportunity to do that yet. So as soon as I do, I will post that. But just so you know, I was all prepared at the end of October. What was it, October 28th? I put on a sexy dress and I got all ready to do a Cooking with Cleavage. And that was when Hurricane Zeta was coming through New Orleans, and it destroyed my my exterior garage, my detached garage. The metal roof flew off of my garage, hit my house roof, then hit my car, put a hole in my windshield and banged it all up before it flew into the street and busted the blacktop. So I just want to let you know that I've been dealing with a lot. It's not because I don't enjoy inviting you into my kitchen, okay? So today is Thanksgiving. Happy turkey gobble 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 day. And my favorite thing to eat when I was a kid is Mirliton Casserole. So it's a tedious job. So if I don't make it, then I don't eat it. So I've actually made it over the years. This is a Mirliton. I actually cooked it, but this is what it looks like. In other cities I've lived, they call it Chayote, which is the Native American name for it. Chayote. Mirliton is Mirliton. And so what you do is you just cut them in half like this. There's a little soft seed that I actually took out already. After you boil it, it's tender enough to play with, you see? So you just can peel the skin off like this. You just cut the skin away like that. And then the meat is the inside. That's the meat that's actually a squash. And what I like to do is because I make my Mirlitons with shrimp, a lot of people like their Mirliton casserole with different things. You know, they'll make it with shrimp or tasso, which is a spicy ham, indigenous to Louisiana. Also, what people do is instead of boiling them and peeling them like this, they'll boil them and scrape all the meat out, but try to keep the skin as whole as possible. And what I've heard how people can actually do this is they leave a little bit of the meat on the actual skin because the skin is so thin. I know people who try to do this and they mess it up by, you know, the skin tearing or whatever like that. But then you take all the meat out, you do the exact same thing, except you stuff it back into the Mirliton, what I'm putting together now, and you bake it like that. I always preferred the casserole, but that's just a really personal preference kind of a thing. But what I started doing is instead of just putting the shrimp inside, yesterday I actually peeled all the shrimp and I made a shrimp stock, and then I boiled the Mirlitons in the shrimp stock. So they have a little bit of a different color now than if you just would boil them in water. Right? So just get all the hard skin out, just because the skin is tough and it's chewy, and you don't want to eat that with your nice soft, you know, casserole. So I'm going to get all this peeled, and then I'm going to show you how to put it all together. So what I did here in this pot here, I have it on low, and I just have a stick of butter melting in there, okay? And what I'm going to do is turn the oven on. My oven, I think I've told y'all about this before. I really need a new one. It only goes to 350. So I'm working on getting a new oven so I can make other things. Like I'm also making pumpkin pie today. But I'm going to have to do that at my sister's house because she has an oven that actually works. So you just mash all the Mirlitons. And they should be tender enough to mash. And now I had it on low, but I'm going to turn it up a little bit so that we can actually get it cooking, right? And then after the butter melts, what you want to do is, the recipe actually calls for half of a cup of parsley. It's not the Italian parsley, the curly leaf parsley. And it says a half a cup smushed down, which means after you cut it, you smush it down and make sure. So I probably don't have enough parsley today because I took whatever I had in my garden and it was a little bit less than I thought it was. But just remember, cooking is not an exact measurement. It's really a taste thing. You can add more or less, and you'll find out really quickly if what you added is too little or too much, right? And then you can try it differently the next time, right? There is nothing wrong with that. So I also took, the recipe also calls for 2 bunches of green onions. So this is what I had in my garden. Isn't that beautiful? Beautiful green onions. And I don't know if y'all know this, but you can just, after you next time you get a pack of green onions, just cut off the ends and stick them in water and let them grow. They'll start growing up. And then you just put them in soil. And it was so easy to grow these green onions. You would be surprised how easy it is. Okay, so when it get all this mashed, we'll come back and show you how to do it. Okay, so the butter is melted. And then you just want to take the green onions and the parsley and you want to put it in the butter. Just to kind of get those flavors working, right? You want to kind of bring the flavors out of everything. I just washed my hands. Just remember while you're cooking to just, keep your hands washed. So that way, if you need to use your hands for something, I went to go get some food to go from a bar the other day, and the girl was, excuse me, the girl was actually she was making a strawberry daiquiri, and she was taking the strawberries out of the container with her hand, and it really grossed me out. I walked out of the restaurant because, it's one thing to use your hands while you're cooking, but you want to make sure your hands are clean, and I don't think her hands were clean. That was a guess, but I saw her come do a couple of things before she did that, so my guess is they weren't as clean as they should be. So if you're working in a bar like that, you should really use a bar spoon. That's what bar spoons are for. And so yeah, I'm actually drinking coffee today because it's morning. But the next thing you do after the vegetables get all nice and tender, and they're actually starting to get tender, you could put the melitons in there. So you just put everything in there. And then you mush it all down. My mom taught me how to make this, and whenever she taught me how to make something when I was a kid, she said, I don't have a recipe. Help me and write it down. So my recipe calls for, just smush it all down with the butter. That's like my actual book. So you see the butter in there? You see the butter? And you just mush it all down. You cook it all down, get it all chopped up. And mush it all down with the butter. Whoops. Somebody's gonna have an earache for that. But you see can y'all see this? How you just mashing it all together? And you just mash it all down. And you let it simmer. It's starting to smell good with the butter and the onions. And the thing is, it's a very delicate, Mirliton or Chayote is a very delicate squash. Like a lot of squashes, it takes the flavor. It doesn't have much flavor for itself. So it takes the flavor of whatever you cook it with, right? All right, we're gonna let that simmer down. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is the melitons are all cooked down. And look at these beautiful shrimp I got. And what I did is after I peeled them and made the stock, I just deveined them, because my sister likes it that way. And I like to make my sister happy. So I think I turned this back down, but let me turn it a little bit back up to medium. And you see it? Look, it's hot because it's steaming. See, you can see the steam coming off of it. So you just put the shrimp in there. The recipe calls for 2 pounds, but I got 3 pounds because I don't see how more shrimp can hurt, right? It's just my opinion. You just throw them in there. You could cut them up or you could throw them in whole like this. It doesn't matter because it's going to cook down. And when you spoon up the casserole, it's just You know, the shrimp should be tender enough for you to cut the shrimp at that point. And then I got some crab meat. The recipe calls for the meat from 4 crabs, but the more crab meat, the better, correct? I got just a whole pound of it. And if you're gonna buy the crab meat already peeled, you just wanna go through it with your fingers and try to feel if there are any shells in there. There shouldn't be that many, but it's enough so that the people you're eating with will notice. So let me see, I'm gonna just add some crab and see if it's too much. Y'all can tell me what you think. Just kidding, y'all can't really talk back. And you just cook it like this. You don't have to cook it all the way because this is actually going to cook in the oven, but you want to cook it until the shrimp at least start to get pink, right? I don't know. What do y'all think? I think we could add the rest of that crab meat. What do y'all think? I don't see how that would hurt. I used the recipe calls for 10 to 15 melitons. I used 14. So it's pretty close to a full recipe, but I think this is gonna be great with more crab meat, personally. I'm just going all out this year and putting more of everything in everything. You know, comfort food, that's what we need this year. In this crazy year we're living in, 2020. Okay, you just mix that all together. Surprised the shrimp are taking so long to cook. Just gonna let that sit for a little while. And the oven's on 350. You actually cook this on 325, but like I said, my oven is stuck on 350. So we're gonna cook it on 350. Really, the only reason you put it in the oven is to brown the breadcrumbs, and I'll show you that when I get it all together, but I'm gonna let this cook for a little while and I'll be right back. Okay, so as you can see, the shrimp started to get a little pink. Follow me, follow me, follow me. Okay, and so what you do now, I figure that it's gonna cook a little bit more in the oven, so you can kind of, especially now since I'm cooking it on 350 instead of 325, I'm not gonna sit here and make sure the shrimp are cooked all the way. Y'all know, you can overcook shrimp, you know, so as soon as they change colors. So this is just plain breadcrumbs. This recipe that I'm using is very simple. Aren't a lot of seasonings in it. It's just so you can taste, you know, the melitons with the butter and the crab meat and the shrimp and everything. My mom told me just to use green onions and parsley. So that's all I have in here. But you could experiment, you know, add onions and garlic or shallots or whatever you want and see how you like it. Because really this is all just a preference thing. It's really what you like. You know, and nobody knows what you like better than you do. So that's the thing about cooking. Now, when you're baking, you want to make sure you use exact measurements, because with baking, there's the dry to liquid, or, you know, soft to hard recipe that needs to be exact, you know, to get the right consistency. But for cooking, it's really just a taste thing. You know, you taste it, you see how it is, you add whatever you want. And then what I'm gonna do is just add this all back to the casserole dish. Okay, we're just gonna get it all in here. I'll be right back, okay? Okay, and then after you get it all in the casserole dish like this, you just take some more breadcrumbs. It doesn't have to be an exact measurement, and you just sprinkle it on top. Oh, I think I'm gonna need a spoon to even that out, a small one. Thank you. Okay, you get it all covered with breadcrumbs. I've heard of some people maybe putting butter on top of their breadcrumbs. I don't know. Just a thought. I don't know how that could make it worse. As I was saying, that's what cooking's all about. Cooking's all about experimenting with what you like and finding a way to make it better. Like when my mom taught me how to make this recipe, she didn't tell me to boil anything in shrimp stock, right? But I love this dish. It was my favorite thing at the dinner table for Christmas and Thanksgiving. And I can't remember if they made it for Easter too in my mom's family. But anyway, you know, when I got older and I realized it takes a really long time to make that shrimp stock. And I'm going to show you how to make a shrimp stock on a future episode. I thought I did it already, but I might not have. Y'all comment if you let me know if you've seen it on my show before. But that takes a long time. If you actually peel your own crabs, that takes a long time. And then these melitons, actually like boiling them. And after you boil the melitons, they're so hot you can't pick them up and peel them like that. So you have to cool them off. So that takes time. So this is a very tedious recipe. It's not just wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, you know? So anyway, then you just put this in the oven straight like this. And you let that cook. It's going to be about a half an hour until the breadcrumbs are browned on top, okay? We'll check that out in a little bit. Okay, so here's the casserole. I know the breadcrumbs don't look too brown, but you see how the edges look brown around it? I think I cooked it closer to like an hour, so I hope it's not too cooked. I know I normally taste my my food when I cook it for y'all, but I'm gonna have to tell y'all that this is delicious because I can smell it, and I'm bringing this over to my sisters, so I'm not gonna taste it right now. I'm gonna taste it later. But I wanted to talk about this. It's Lindemann's Framboise. It's a raspberry beer. Lindemann's also makes a strawberry version and I think a peach. So you might want to try it out. I hadn't had these in years, and I went to a new wine store close to here, and they had it, and I was like, oh, I used to get it in a bigger bottle, but I was like, that's like going to be a nice little start to Thanksgiving morning after I have my coffee. So you open it up like a beer, and then you open it up like a wine bottle, but it doesn't have a big pop because it's, you know, I don't know why. But anyway, that's how it looks. Ooh, can y'all see it? Ooh, that's gonna be good. It's got a nice little head on top. You know? Ooh, oh God, that smells so good. All the flavors you can tell have just penetrated that casserole. So delicious. Oh my goodness. And it's gonna be like really moist because see all the juice that's around there? Because I made sure some of that shrimp stock, when you boil the melitons like that, there's so much juice in it, you know? All right, so here's to Thanksgiving. I hope y'all are all with your family, friends, with food, football, and a lot of fun. Enjoy. Cheers.